many games have you played where the ending made you cry? Many? At least one? It's weird, no? Games are supposed to be fun, to be a distraction, a power fantasy, where you beat the boss and get the girl. But games with a tragic endings, they stick with you. Maybe because, unlike movies, we're the ones controlling the characters. We're the ones that made the story end up like that. There are many games that made me cry, but there is one game, one I played recently, that broke me. It doesn't look like much at first. It even looks kinda cute. But soon, it becomes clear that the main character is not okay. And as you make your way through his dreams, you found out more and more about him and about what he's done. And that game is Enroll. Oh, but I guess Omori could fit that description too. Omori is an indie RPG horror game that came out in 2020. It was developed by Omocat and her team. But you probably know that. Chances are you clicked on this video because of the mention of Omori. It was a huge success. It has great reviews and it even got a physical release on Switch. The one game you might not know is the other one mentioned in the title. Enroll is also an indie horror RPG released 4 years earlier in 2016 by Segawa. It's a game with many resemblance to Omori, but less polish, made more cheaply, and is slowly being forgotten. And so, I wanted to make this video to tell all the Omori fans, if you liked Omori, you should like Enroll. And here's why. It's great. It's really great. Really, you should go in blind like I did. Because this video is mostly spoilers, and so if you're the tiniest bit interested in Enrolled, stop the video and go play it now. It's free, it's great, go have fun. Alright, are we good for Enrolled spoilers? Good. Oh, and Omori spoilers too, of course. In this video, we will discuss what both games have in common, how they differ, and for that I'll need to talk in details about Enroll, and what I like in both games. So, here we go. Oh, and if indie RPG games that are creepy cute are your thing, me and the Spooky Kiwi Studio are working on a great game called Pluto and Gael. It's about dreams, friends, solitude, and it's great! Check out our Instagram to follow our progress. Links in the description. What's the same in both games? Both Omori and Enroll are indie games made on RPG Maker. In both games, you control a mostly silent protagonist with a troubled life that will escape in a dream world which is an idolized version of their life. They will meet friends that are based on people they know and go on various fun adventures. But as they progress further and further, the dream will become more nightmarish and they will be forced to confront their past. The games play very similarly. Both main characters have a dark monster pursuing them that is pretty much unbeatable. You will also meet and fight your double. Both protagonists had a pet at some point and they both sorta dress the same. Okay, those two last points were a bit of a stretch, but you get my point. Though I want to clarify that I am not saying that Omori plagiarized Enroll. That is not the point of this video. Those games are similar but differ greatly. Both give a very different but very good experience. So please don't take this video as Enroll, the game that Omori stole everything from, because that is not what this is. Mostly, I believe that thanks to those similarities, fans of one game could like the other one just as much. But as I said, the two games are also very different, even though, funnily enough, they both start in a complete white room. What's different in both games? Difference number 1, the setting of the story. Enroll opens in some sort of hospital, where your main character Russell is to take part in some experiment. The staff at this hospital are very nice and professional, and by that I mean that every morning they wake him up with the message, "Good morning, deranged maniac," and will always insult him and tell him how much he doesn't deserve their good treatment of him. A nurse on a screen explains that he will have to take a medicine called Happy Dream that will send him in, well, a happy dream. The TV will close and the game will begin. You cannot leave or interact with anything else. It's time to take your medicine. You will take the syringe and inject it yourself, because this medical center has a real DIY approach. And suddenly, there's a window. And also, you can leave. Outside is a sunny day in a weird but cute little town. The inhabitants of this town are a bit unique, but they're all friendly. There is Tabasa, the kind-hearted animal keeper, Gardenia, the cheerful cook, Cantera, the soft-spoken doctor, Cody, the tsundere farmer, Saxon, the elderly mayor, Mireille, the kind-hearted helper, and Yumi, the cool cop lady. After you greet everyone, Tabasa, the animal keeper, will ask you to help him retrieve something in the woods. As you accompany him, you will face your first enemies. But they are not goblins or wolves. They are zoo tickets and monkeys. You will then fight your first boss, the witnessing one, a bunch of eyes with a pointing finger, who will eventually turn into a laughing monkey. During the battle, the boss will say that he saw you and knows what you did. Russell will then hear voices recounting something. As I came in, the zookeeper was feeding the monkeys. The monkeys were screeching loudly. I had a vision of Dad. He should just die. Then I talked with the zookeeper a little. The zookeeper was really nice and secretly let me into his room. I felt like this was what having a big brother would be like. When I thought that, I got kinda sad and hit the back of the zookeeper's head. He was squatting in front of the cage, so it was easy to hit him in the head. Why wouldn't he be my brother? Yep, this is not just any happy dream full of friendly neighbors, because Russell is not just any troubled youth. He's a convicted murderer. Each inhabitant of the town is someone Russell has wronged in the past. But he feels no remorse for doing so. Actually, he doesn't feel much of anything. The point of this experiment is to see if killers can be taught guilt through reliving their crimes. Oh, not so Russell can be redeemed. No. He's on death row. No, this is just to pass the time, for science. If he fails the experiment, he returns to his cells to await his execution. And if he succeeds, same thing. There's no winning this. And is it working so far? Well, not really. After the incident with Tabasa, Russell comments in his diary that he just simply doesn't feel that thing called guilt. And that this dream is nice and he'll just chill here for a bit. And so, this is the setting of the game. Going through dream adventures with the people you've heard in the real world to see if it affects you. Very different from the escapism journey of Sunny, who is actually running from his guilt by going in his dream. In fact, Omori's whole thing is to forgive yourself and move on, and Enroll is pretty much the entire opposite of that. It's about confronting what you've done and learning the weight of your actions. So the setting is clearly different, but something else might appear dissimilar to you. Difference number 2, the personality of the main character. So, we established that Russell has some social issues. He has violent impulses, he lacks empathy, and he seems very detached from everything. But there's a logic to his madness, and I find that part of his character really interesting. Let me illustrate what I mean. On the second day of the game, we go see Gardenia, the cook, who has the same age as Russell. She says she wants a new frying pan, and we agree to help her find one. But we don't know where to find a round one, so we go to the local information shop to see where we can... Oh. The informant shop is operated by you, or at least another you, because who knows you better than yourself? This is your dream after all. The other you, which calls himself the informant, is a very interesting character. He's not a specific part of Russell like his conscience or his evil side. He's just him. And as you probably know, you are your worst, but only, ally in life. The informant tells you about a cave in the forest where you can find a round frying pan, and so you go there. This place is weird, like an old house that was abandoned during a birthday party. Here you fight birthday presents and unsent letters. You then face the boss, the lamenting one, a giant birthday cake and 2 sad birthdays. So this level clearly depicts a birthday, but whose? Possibly Russell's? Not sure. Since as you fight the enemies, you hear these words. I don't think Dad or Mom cared at all about the day I was born. It was a sad birthday. Also, the boss actually speaks to Gardenia, calls her an angel and says, Papa loves you. It also continuously heals Gardenia throughout the fight, while it sobs convulsively. And once again, Russell will hear a voice recounting something. I was invited to a classmate's birthday party. It wasn't like we were friendly. It was the whole class who was invited, not just me. Her family was rich, and her dad made many, many incredible meals for her. He made the birthday cake too. Suddenly, I remembered something. I remembered today was my birthday too. Of course, no one knew that, so no one was celebrating me. During the party, I saw that blessed girl, alone on a staircase. I approached her from behind. Could this blessed angel fly? Russell has a big jealousy problem, which makes him act impulsively. It should be clear by now that he's not from a good family and envies people who are. But even though he does comment about the fact that Gardenia is rich, it's the love of her father that really triggered his hate. And I don't know, for a 14-year-old serial killer character, I like the thought process they gave him. Not very logical, but very immediate and emotional. Like a kid. A messed up kid that never even thought of saying, hey, it's my birthday too. Because he was sure no one would have cared. Sunny is not that. He's more realistically portrayed. He has fears and faults that normal people could have, and that is why many relate to him as a protagonist. Russell isn't really relatable, but you do feel for him. And I believe that's because a lot of thought went into why he does bad things, and how it all ties up to his personal experience. And really everything in this game relates back to him brilliantly. Difference number 3, the relevance of every step. Pretty much everything in this dream relates back to Russell. The people, the bosses, the enemies, and especially the side quests. It really has a high attention to details, but it's not superfluous. This is not just any dream after all. It's a dream created from Russell's psyche specifically made to torture him. Every enemy vanquished, every new area to explore is a new layer of trauma to unpeel, so that Russell can maybe learn to feel guilt. The enemies I showed so far, the monkeys, the presents, they just seem to be themed with the level, but there is more to them. The zoo tickets are for one child, just like the ones Russell got with the money he stole from his mom's purse. The presents are unopened, because Gardenia died before she opened them. So they will stay like this forever. Not all enemies have a clear parallel to the bigger picture like this, but the fact that some do is already pretty cool. And then there are the side quests. Enroll encourages you highly to do them. Actually, if you don't do any, you cannot finish the game properly, which could anger some, but I don't see it as a problem. It forces you to not just do the main story and to explore. And it even has a pretty good canon reason for it. You are told to increase your guilt level by exploring and interacting with people. If you're too lazy to do so and don't have a high enough guilt level, you're deemed unfit for the experiment and are taken away. But what are those side quests? Well, they're not all amazing, but some are actually my favorite part of the game. Can you believe that? The best part of a game being a side quest? But yeah, some are just okay, like the ones with the caddies, a race of cat people that live in an industrial labyrinth and are addicted to catnip. And at first I thought, okay, it's catnip, but it's actually about drugs. Okay, I get it. But later on, you learn that Russell, because of the money problems of his family, had to work for drug dealers for a while. And then the caddies take a whole new meaning. The actual side quest of the caddies is a pretty sad one. A caddy asks you to pick up a bag that his friend dropped. You find the bag and, well, it's clearly drugs. And when you give it to the caddy, he tells you that his friend is pretty much half dead now. So he wanted him to have one last taste before he goes. It's a bit too real there. Of the side quests that I love, there is one that so easily could have been cliché, but it has a pretty unique twist. You find a door, and behind it is this weird white and red world full of dead rabbit imagery. And I went, oh, of course, since Russell is a little serial killer, he was torturing animal first, haha, the classic. But no, the rabbit was not Russell's victim, but his friend. When he was little, he had a pet rabbit, but he got run over by a truck. Of course, the loss of his dear friend affected him, but that's not what stuck with him. What did was the reaction of the passerby. While they said kind words like, poor thing, they would treat the body as dirty trash, teaching Russell that corpses, even ones of dear friends, are in the end nothing but garbage. And by making such an association at such a young age, it probably made him see death as not that much of a big deal. And now my favorite side quest, Deep Sea Hotel. It's an underground aquarium that is also a hotel, dream logic, but it's been attacked by a dangerous monster and you are asked to defeat it. On your way to the monster, you fight some enemies like microbes and enigma fish. Okay, and theming with the setting, but then they turn into good memories. Okay. You also remember meeting a young girl in an aquarium once. She had gotten lost and she needed help. And I went, oh, no, Russell, what did you do with this girl? And then comes the boss. It's the lost girl, and she reveals what Russell did to her. He took her hand and helped her find her way, as he listened to her talking about fishes. She knew a lot about it, which impressed him, and he had a good time. Well, that sounds nice. So why is she a boss? Well, at this point in the game, we are on day 4 of the experiment, and Russell is starting to not feel so happy anymore. He doesn't feel like he deserves all these fun times with the people he hurt. He even started having trouble breathing at times. And his mind is so troubled and so confused that even his happiest memories are hurting him now. It pains him to remember that he once was kind. So he turned this happy memory into a monster to be beaten and destroyed. Now, I have to talk about my biggest problem with Omori. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game made with passion, but nothing is perfect. And something that frustrated me as I played was the lack of progress I felt in Headspace. I get that the whole idea was to go deeper and deeper in denial, but after a while, I sort of got bored of it. I also get that since the game was delayed so much, they wanted the players to have a game worth the wait. But I really think it could have been shortened in some places. And not every part of Headspace felt needed to understand Sunny. As I played it, I didn't feel like I really got anything out of some places, except the satisfaction that it was done now and I could go back in the real world and hang out with Kel. Every world we visit is very visually pleasing and has fun parts in it, but ultimately it felt like just fluff. Which it was all a distraction for Sunny so he wouldn't have to deal with his problems, I get that. But after a while, the excitement of what are we gonna see next sort of died down. But with Enroll, I felt the opposite. Every new day of the experiment was a chance to know more about Russell, about what he did and why. Each step gave you a new piece of the puzzle, and if you really liked Russell as a character like I did, it's very rewarding. I excitedly went in every new chapter going, "Alright Russell, what did you do this time?" Difference number 4. The presence of the real world. You might have noticed by now, but half of what makes Omori what it is not in Enroll, and that is the real world. Omori's biggest strength, in my opinion. It's the part that is the most well written, the one you remember most, but it's also where the story actually progresses and makes Sunny grow. Not only that, all the things in Headspace are fake. It's Sunny's mental journey to process his trauma. The Kel, Aubrey, and Hero of Headspace are fake too. And that's the point, they're pale, idolized version of the originals. They were fine, but when I remember those characters, I remember their real-life counterpart. But then, does that mean that none of the characters in Enroll matter? I had a real dilemma about that. I have a big problem about meta-narratives like these. If characters are fake in canon, then I lose all interest. And so, by that logic, I should hate the characters in Enroll. But I don't. So it got me thinking. And then I realized the happy dream in Enroll is so fake that it's as real as it gets. Let me explain. So, this is the real world in Enroll. This one white room that you can't leave. This is the only gameplay you have not in the dream. And the only thing you can do is take the syringe and go back to sleep. So the dream is all you've got. That weird village is the closest thing Russell will ever get to the outside world. Those fake dream people are the closest thing he can have to the original, since they're all dead. There is no other option than this fake alternative. It's not an escape, it's a trap. So, even though it's much more narratively pleasing to go outside and meet the real versions of the dream characters, the fact that we can never do so in Enroll really solidifies the tragedy we're in. Difference number 5. The life circumstances of the main character. A fact that must be pretty clear by now is that Russell didn't have the best home life. His mother was a prostitute who would mostly work at home, and his dad was an angry alcoholic with a gambling addiction. I know, right? The big cliché. But clichés aren't bad in themselves. One of my favorite storytelling tricks is to take a cliché and twist it just a bit to make it feel new and unique. Game developer Uri is a master at this, and I love her for it. But yeah, little kid of the suburbs with the big house and the backyard, Russell is not. But neither is he a poor little sad boy. I mean, he dresses really well. Nah, but seriously, one thing I really like in Enroll is the way it portrays poverty. They abort a subject in many ways, but it's mostly concentrated in one section, Puddle Apartments. It's I don't know if I can call it a side quest. It's more of an extra area you can explore. It is said to be the place where your best and only friend lives. Puddle Apartments is a rundown apartment building near the docks. People there are either feigning ignorance or watching you. But they have some things to say. This place is a puddle. A gloomy, ugly, moldy, lightless, damp, back alley puddle. That's what this place is. The other day, somebody came by and tried to sell me a happiness jar. I mean, I didn't buy it, but isn't that upsetting? Deciding for yourself that someone is unhappy? Who does he think he is? Man, I can't stand these rundown apartments. It's so dark, the water's moldy. Well, it's mostly dark because my power's been cut. Gotta use candlelight for a while, ha ha ha. I won't be able to pay rent this month, so I'm escaping into the night. Don't look for me. Those people are stuck, and worst of all, they know it. They're on the edge of society, literally clinging to the very border of the city, because beyond that is nothing. This is not a caricature of poverty or an idolization of it. This feels real. Too real. And then there's Chris. Chris is nothing special, just an NPC that represents someone in Russell's past. As we enter his apartment, he greets us. He seems to know about Russell's family situation and offers him to hide out here for a bit. He also tells us that his mother is in the same business as Russell's, so he gets where he's coming from. That's it, just an NPC who gives us some exposition about Russell's past. You can beat the game without meeting him, and even in the grand story, he's not all that important. But he's my favorite character of this game. Why? His dialogue. Huh? If it ain't Russell, you came to visit? Right, well, I'm poor as hell, so I can't offer you much except water. Take it easy. You know, man, your parents are really the worst. Ain't good here either, but man, saintly compared to yours. Hey, real talk here. It's okay if you live here, yeah? Mom seems fond of you too. Huh? Nah, it's fine. Don't make that face. In the red again this month. Water's still barely working. You know any good jobs, Russell? Even risky stuff will do here. Huh? What the hell, Russell? You got another bruise. You okay? Your old man again? Looks painful. Want me to go to the hospital to get a compress or disinfectant? Hey, Russell. Kinda sudden, but are there any girls you like? Me? I mean, I got one. But I hear she's really rich. We're no match at all. You got her birthday invitation too, right? I'm not gonna go. I don't got any good clothes. Man, he's just such a great guy. He tries to help his mom as best he can. He lacks confidence and resorts to humor to cover it up. Like, I feel like I know this guy. Or at least I'd like to. And with everything we've seen about Russell's life, I'm just so glad he had Chris as a friend. You can even go back to Chris's place at night, and he'll invite you for supper, and you'll meet his mom. This family, man, so sweet. In the context of the game, we don't know where Chris is right now. This is just a dream. This is not the real Chris, just a memory. Is he doing well? Does he know about Russell's crime? Does he hate him for it? We'll never know. And even if we did, it doesn't matter anymore. Both life circumstances actually fit their main character perfectly. You can clearly see how their environment molded them, making Sunny into this reserved boy afraid of the outside world, and Russell into this emotionless, quiet kid, afraid of affection. Difference number 6. The root of their trauma. What is the root of Russell and Sunny's trauma? For Sunny, it's simple. His whole mental world, heck, the whole game, is built around it. It looms over every character of the game. It's seen everywhere, in the mirrors, at the foot of his bed, at his door. It is the guilt he feels over the death of his sister Mari. And to beat the game, Sunny needs to forgive himself and defeat the version of him that wants to deny the truth. It is a beautiful story about overcoming trauma and healing. And now, Russell, where to begin? I'll be honest, I struggled with this one. Russell seemed plagued by tons of trauma, from his abusive dad to his life experience, or, all the murders he committed. But then I thought about who was the last boss of the game. You'd think it'd be his dad, and you'd be partially right. His dad is a boss, the toxic one. But it's not the final one. No, that one is his mom, the indecent one. Russell doesn't say much about his mother. He is much more vocal about his hate towards his father. But in the last dungeon we explore, the Cradle, we learn a bit more about their relation. His mom hated him. She never wanted him, and she made it known. She was cruel and cold towards him throughout his life. She was clearly a bad mom, but she wasn't as abusive as his father was. So why is she the boss? Well, she was also a prostitute, and one that exerted her craft at home where her son could see her. And if you were a kid growing up with an unloving mother, but you kept seeing her be extremely loving to strangers all the time, it would mess you up. I believe this left Russell being starved for love, but also feeling like he was unlovable. If even his mother, who seems to love everyone, doesn't love him, then who would? And that's where his insane jealousy comes from. That's why he didn't simply ask Tabasa to be his brother, or told Gardenia it was also his birthday. And Mireille and Cantera, who were nice to him but eventually asked him to kill them, cemented that sentiment. People who are nice to him only needed something out of him. And his cycle of wanting love but not being able to accept it led him here, to his end. This whole game was his end. For those who don't know, end roll is a way to say end credits in Japanese. So all this time, we weren't seeing a story. We were just seeing its end. And so, what's the moral of end roll? The death penalty is bad? Government mental health care is the worst? Don't kill people, you might regret it? Well, end roll, unlike Omori, is not an adventure game. It's a regretful adventure game. I don't think it's meant to have a moral. It's just sad. It's, as I've been saying, a tragedy. When I was playing the game, it was apparent early on that it would not end well. But as I got to know Russell and the other characters, I started to hope. Hope that somehow we could have a happy ending. Maybe a secret ending would be hidden somewhere or something, anything. But of course, it could not have ended any other way. And a tragedy that can make you feel hopeful is a damn good one. So, which game is the best between the two? I think you won't be surprised when I tell you it's obviously Omori. I mean, of course it is. It has polished graphics with strong art direction, fun and inventive gameplay, and a meaningful grand story. It is an objectively better game. I am aware of that. But, as the title of the video suggests, if you like Omori, you should like Enroll. And I believe you really should give it a try. Its graphics looks old, the gameplay is basic, and the story could be compared to a creepypasta at times. But, I don't know, it sticks with you. The world of indie RPGs have the advantage that they can be made by anyone. Some games are made by a team of experienced artists, and some are made by one fan in their basement. That's what I love about them. It's so free, so raw. Sure, because of that, you get some trash sometimes, but you also get some masterpieces. Omori is one of the only indie horror RPGs to have had a physical release. It has been deemed good enough for the large public. It is a great game, but I don't think that means we should hold all horror RPGs to the same standard because of that. I really recommend you to go see more of these indie games. One of the great things about Omori's success is that it can open the door for more games like it to be discovered, and I hope it will. It was what I tried to do with this video. I don't know if Enroll is really as great as I made it out to be, but I do think it deserves to be more well known. Please, don't let this game fall into obscurity. And so, in summary, both games are great. Both games are fun. and both games have the protagonist push a girl down the stairs. Thank you, good night. Hey there, I hope you liked the video. I've got a few more if you, I don't know, like to hear me talk. You can also follow me on Instagram, and also, as I said, I'm working on a game with the Spooky Kiwi Studio. Please go see our page. Bye!